Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Royal News Network Saturday morning question and answer, which is usually our live stream. Those usually happen at 10 a.m. every Saturday. But for part of this summer, we are taking a little bit of a break and we're doing some Q&As instead. And a lot of you guys are really liking this format. So what you guys do is you guys submit any questions that you have throughout the week, and I just go ahead and I go through and I answer them. And we have 60 some odd questions, y'all. So there will be quite a few to get through, and I'm super, super excited. We've had a lot of royal news this week. A lot of royals in Europe are getting back to work. We had the 50th birthday celebrations of Crown Prince Haakon and Mette Marit, and then we also had Crown Princess Victoria getting back to work. She greeted the Swedish soccer team as they came home after their victory. We also have King Charles getting his official welcome at Balmoral. And then we also have Catherine and William having one of their first engagements, getting back to work after the summer break in September on the 8th. That is the anniversary of Her Majesty's death. And the couple will be going to St. David's Cathedral in Wales to commemorate Her Majesty. And then obviously, Harry and Meghan, we've got confirmation that Harry is going to the Well Child Awards on September 9th. And I'm sure a lot of people are very worried about what he's going to get up to on the 8th, because he'll probably be there by then. And then we also have as well Harry and Meghan at the Invictus Games coming up in the end of September. And they made an announcement that, yes, they are going, as if we all did not know they were already going. But these were many of the stories we covered throughout the week. So without further ado, let's get some of your guys' questions. Okay, so the first one we have here is from Jay San. These are in no particular order. I had screenshot a bunch of them, so no particular order here. Says the Royal Grift posted a 2-part video under the title London Saga this week. Claims Meghan Markle was part of a conspiracy and a honeypot sent into the royal family to bring them down. Would you like your thoughts on these compelling videos? Jason, I'm so sorry. I don't believe any of that. I think Meghan Markle was part of no conspiracy except for herself. She wanted a rich husband because her time in the spotlight was ending on Suits. And she doesn't have a great talent. And so she was desperately trying to do anything. She was hanging out with Millie McIntosh from Made in Chelsea, who I actually started following on social media a long time ago because I used to watch Made in Chelsea like the first couple of seasons. And Meghan was just desperate for fame and fortune. And she was going to do anything, get with anyone. And Harry was just the dummy who picked up on it. I think other people that she had tried to interact with, they kind of met her and they're like, I don't know, totally. But yeah, she was only after one thing, though, and that was money, fame, and fortune. And I'm going to take a little sip of my peanut butter here, hot chocolate from Whittard's. So I'm almost out of hot chocolate, so it's very fortuitous that I will be in London in a couple weeks. And so we got Melissa Blitzer here, said it has been basically a tour-free year for the Waleses other than the Earthshot-related trips. So where do you think they might go in 2024? Will they bring the kids? And when would it typically be announced? Great question. I was really thinking this year would be Australia and New Zealand. It's been about 10 years now. In 2014, it will be 10 years since Catherine and William have visited Australia and New Zealand. I think it's well overdue. They went to Canada not too long ago. And I think with the transition of power and everything, it's time to get one of the higher ranking royals over to Australia and New Zealand. Obviously, we've had a couple others, but this is, I think, a great time for Catherine and William to go with the kids. I think Easter 2024, because the kids will be on school break and stuff like that, that we might get an announcement of a trip that the kids will be on. And I think it's important to bring the kids on these trips. It introduces them to some aspects of real life. And it's just an opportunity for us to see them in different situations. And I think that's really fantastic when Catherine and William can do that. And I think this year will be no exception. So it remains to be seen, but I think that is a great way to go. All right, next question we have here is Arlene Sandel says, do you think Meghan has learned something and might actually make herself somewhat likable at the Invictus Games? Meghan Markle is many things. A person who is able to read social cues and react accordingly and has limits on her own ego is not one of her skill sets. It's not one of her skill sets. So I imagine that she is going to the Invictus Games, I think, really solely for the good publicity that the event generates. That's it. That is the only reason she's going. She was more than willing to throw Harry to the wolves in every other situation, but this one where they could get a modicum of good publicity, she's like, take me. And so she is going to go there for that. She could make herself somewhat likable, but the hard thing is that like she'll do something once and then she'll never do it again. And I'm sorry, but everything in Harry and Meghan's life right now is self-serving. Their life in Hollywood is all self-serving. Their projects are all self-serving. So I just can't see her doing anything charitable without it also being self-serving on her part. And so that's kind of a challenge I think she's going to face, and I think that's part of the reason why she remains just so unlikable. So I don't know what she's quite going to do with that. Summer Larson said, "How do you think it's going to end for Harry? Do you think he's dug his heels in too deep and is too stubborn to ever go back to the RF that he cruelly betrayed, assuming that Meghan doesn't initiate separation/divorce? He seems like too much of a follower to ever do anything of his own imagining unless someone forces his hand." Yeah, I think a lot of this is true. I think if the divorce is initiated, it'll be Meghan. I don't think it'll be Harry. I think it'll be Meghan. And I don't think it'll be Harry because I don't think as a guy, his pride will survive admitting that he totally, completely, and utterly messed up when it came to Meghan Markle. I don't think his ego can stand it. And I think she'll be at the point where he's no longer useful. So she wants to go, oh, you know what? Let's just end it, Harry, because he's no longer a use to her. She has somebody better, or he's dragging her down more than he's pulling her up. I think different things come together. And if she finds a bigger fish, I think she'll go with that. Unfortunately, I don't think a lot of people like her. And now that she's had such huge publicity, the likability factor has decreased exponentially. So she almost killed her own brand by becoming too big for her britches in a lot of ways. She should have stayed low tier because then her ego could be inflated by the minimal attention she got instead of all the attention she got, which really inflated her ego. However, has also revealed her to be you could say, narcissist, somewhat pathological liar, and somebody who's more than willing to do anything she can to stay ahead of the rest of everybody else. But it'll be interesting to see what happens now when it comes to Harry. Yeah, I think it'll be challenging for him. I don't know if he'll ever be willing to file for divorce. I don't know. Unless he truly finds out that, he was blaming all his family for leaking stories and somehow he truly finds out and realizes it was her the whole time. Kind of like it was Agatha all along from the series. Oh, what was it? WandaVision, which I haven't watched, but I saw that a little bit. So I think he may find that out, and I think that may hurt his ego just a little bit. All right, Crazy Me asks, when will Harry wake up and see how he is acting like a very spoiled child? I don't know if he ever will. It may be something, but I mean, I'm still shocked. Maybe it'll be the Queen's death, remembering it. They'll bring it all back, that she is probably the reason he did not see his grandmother the day before she died. Probably the reason might be Meghan Markle. And so that is just gotta hurt in a lot of ways. So we'll see what comes together in that way. And then we also have Mfar Ugisa says, if you would ask any question to any of the royals throughout Europe, what would they be? That is a great question. I love that question. So goodness gracious me. To a certain extent, it's hard because I know there's the language barrier, so I don't get probably quite as deep into some of the others. I mean, I know quite a bit more than most people, but you can't get quite as deep because you don't have access to what they're saying all the time, what they're doing all the time, because there is a difference in language there. But I mean, I would just have a ton of fun asking Maxima about the tiara collection that they have and wearing the Stuart for the first time, like the full set. What did she think of that diamond, the Stuart diamond? It's a 40 karat light blue diamond that has its roots back in the 1700s. It's a very, very old diamond. And so I would just want to ask her so much about that, and just so much in general about, she has some of my greatest fashion looks in terms of like gala gowns. So I'd almost want to ask her about one or two of those. And then I think in like Sweden, I would just ask, Crown Princess Victoria how she manages, she struggled with anorexia for a while when she was really young. And so how does she manage to get through that and yet continue to be in great health since then and really active and everything like that? And how does she manage her family, because she has an interesting family dynamic, because her father is still a little bit frustrated that his son in his mind was stripped of his crown prince title when they changed the succession laws. So how does she manage to understand her father's position and yet not let it reflect on her or hurt her in any way that maybe in the back of his mind somewhere her father would prefer if her younger brother was going to be king instead of her? think that would be an interesting question to ask. And I'd ask like Letizia, how was it changing and giving up? You had a role on CNN, you were a reporter and everything. What was it like to give that up? And I'd almost ask her as well, it's like, you don't strike me as somebody who is super invested in the idea of royalty if you hadn't fallen in love with the prince. Did you struggle with this idea of not only giving up your career, but going to an institution you could say is very backwards in a lot of ways? And I don't think that is actually Letizia's personal perspective. I think she's more liberal than the conservatism of the monarchy would suggest. So I just ask her about that and how does she manage it. So that would be my thought. All right, we have Maria Wales ask, "Hi, have you seen Prince Andrew's new documentary?" I have not. I don't know what exactly it is because I know there's so many things coming out all the time anymore. So I'm not sure. All right, so Margaret says, post World Cup, I saw a YouTuber say that the main reason William did not go to Australia was because Australia had not officially asked King Charles to visit yet. So it was a diplomatic reason. William did not step in and take the trip to Australia before his father. Does that make sense? It does to me. There is a lot going on with Australia and deciding whether to become a republic, so the royal family may be handling this delicately. As I understand it, I read this from Richard Palmer, and although he is from the Daily Express, and I realize a lot of the Daily Express stories are bupkis, he is actually on the Royal Rota, so he knows a lot of these things, I think, better than the people who just churn out articles all the time. And his understanding is no, that there's not a diplomatic reason. In the event like this does not require a state official visit or anything like that. It's literally just going there and leaving to watch a football game. So actually, when it comes to diplomatic reasons, there really isn't one. When it comes to what's going on in Australia in general, there's give and takes here. I just think the big thing is that the PR for this was handled exceptionally poorly. That's my issue with this. There should have been a clear explanation of why he wasn't going. For example, if it was a diplomatic reason, why not just say that? I think part of the reason they couldn't say it, though, is because if they admitted that, hey, William is going to go to this event and Charles is not going to go to this event because Charles has not visited Australia, then you have the question of, well, why hasn't Charles visited Australia yet? It's been over almost a year. And I know some people make the comparison to the Queen, that she didn't visit the Commonwealth until like 18 months or so into her reign, 18 months, 2 years. The difference is we have modern transportation now. She became queen in 1952. It's currently 2022 when he became king in 2023 now. Travel is exceptionally easy, not difficult at all. So they're not doing what Charles used to, or the Queen used to do when she did royal tours. So it's very different. So I don't think that explanation totally holds. And again, if it was that simple reason, why not just say that from the palace PR team? And again, I think that there was no good explanation or explanation at all really allowed other explanations to fill in the gaps. Some of them are good. Some of them are not quite so flattering. And that is a PR failure there, because good PR is about managing a situation, managing the narrative, not letting social media take control. And I just don't think they reacted fast enough. I don't think they had a good response ready. And then by the time everything kept churning, there wasn't really something good that they could add. So they didn't say anything at all. But I think if they had done their due diligence here, they could have come up with something that was pretty good. Because unfortunately, too, if you say, well, William's spending time with his family, he's been doing that for the last month. So again, that's a little bit harder. They were in Norfolk, so it wasn't like we knew they were for sure on a vacation somewhere else, although it's entirely possible they could have filmed that early. And so again, there are things that you could do to avoid looking like you didn't care, which is unfortunately what a lot of people took from William's decision. Kaza says, what is the difference between a serene highness like Monaco and a royal highness like in other countries such as UK? Thanks and love your channel. So yeah, so I'm not sure. It depends, because Monaco is a principality. So because it's a principality and not a full kingdom of some way, it devalues the person leading it, not in, if that makes sense in terms of their title. So Prince Albert is His Serene Highness Prince Albert of Monaco. What's interesting, though, is that his sister, Princess Caroline, is technically Her Royal Highness Princess Caroline of Hanover and Monaco, because she's still technically married to Ernst Hanover. And so she gets an HRH. So for her and Ernst, who haven't been seen together, I think, in like 15 years, if they got divorced, she would go back to being just Her Serene Royal Highness. whereas her daughter will actually be Her Royal Highness Princess Alexandra of Hanover. So there's something kind of interesting there in terms of titles. But yeah, it depends on your kingdom. So if you are a principality like Monaco, your title is smaller. There's also His or Her Highness instead of His or Her Royal Highness. And an H or H denotes as well who you should curtsy to and everything. So it is, but it's more in like the royal sphere. So it's if you meet Harry and Meghan, even though they technically hold an HRH, like I wouldn't actually curtsy to them at all. Sorry, one of my lights just fell. So yeah, it's interesting all these different titles and variations of the titles they're in. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's just fascinating to see what it means for royals and how they look at different things. We also have His or Her Imperial Royal Highness. So we have this in those who are connected to the Hanover dynasty. They are still technically His or Her Imperial Royal Highnesses, I believe. So that is something to consider as well. All right, behind the scenes things, if you guys are interested, these are actually my lights. So they plug in, but they also have batteries. So I'm going to put my battery back in there. And there we go. There we go. The batteries are really nice because that means they're much easier to travel with and you can leave them out for a while. I probably actually need to get another set of batteries because one of my batteries, it like dropped and like the little thing that goes in to charge it, like it happened to hit it just at that angle and broke that thing. So I can't charge it anymore. So I have 3 batteries instead of 4. And it would be nice to have 4 because that way I could have 2 charging at all times and just switch them out constantly. All right, so this is from Maureen Griffin, who's one of our channel members. Hello, Maureen. And you get Miss Pippa. Miss Pippa is excited to see everybody. Okay, so Crown Prince Haakon and Met Marit just celebrated their 50th birthdays in a joint celebration. Hope you include coverage of the event. Yes, I posted some pictures on Instagram of the event. It looks like they had a fantastic time. It was kind of a party at the palace type of thing. And so it would look like the whole royal family was there and that everybody had a fantastic time. And it was also their 22nd wedding anniversary, which was very sweet. And they are still very much in love, I think. They're adorable. So I really do appreciate that. So Dizfan asked question, in 20 years, where do you see the British monarchy and say the king passes in his mid-90s, much like his parents? And when it comes William's term, who do you think will be considered working members of the royal family? And does the definition of a working royal change? That's a great question because I think Charles is streamlining the British monarchy a bit too much. And obviously they can't really have Harry and Meghan in the picture anymore. But again, I wonder if other members of the royal family would be able to fill in the gap like Beatrice and Eugenie. But I think it'll be interesting to see because I don't think anybody's all that excited for King Charles to reign for a long time. 20 years is not exceptionally long, but it is a decent chunk of time. And I think people are anxious to see the throne pass to William. I think so. I think there's going to be excitement there, but it will definitely be 20 years. We'll have the Wales' kids. They will 100% be working royals, all of them. I think there was some instance maybe in an interview where, William talked about, oh, Charlotte, she'll need to find a real job. No, she won't need to. Especially now with Harry and Meghan gone, she will be a working royal. Louis will be a working royal. It can't just be Catherine and William and George and his wife. It cannot work that way. And you may still have Anne and Edward still working. But again, once the throne passes to William, that may change. But you can't just have 3 working members of the British royal family. The UK has a population of 67 million. A lot of the Scandinavian countries, their populations are like 5 to 10 million. And they have small number of working royals, but it works for them because they have small countries. The UK does not. In addition, also has a Commonwealth, and that Charles has had a state of other countries. I don't know in the future if that will include, let's say, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. By the time that the throne passes to William, that might have changed. It remains to be seen, but I think they'll definitely be the Waleses, all the Waleses kids and their spouses will be working royals. And then we'll go from there. But I think anybody who can still work will still be working. So, and Dizfan had another question. I missed the Saturday morning live streams, but I do like both versions. My question is, with the Queen going up to Balmoral this week and holding a summit with Prince and Princess of Wales, what do you think was discussed other than the King allowing the Wales a star power? Do you think he has overcome and realized that the fact that popularity does matter when it comes to the monarchy since Diana? Also, do you think a discussion was in place to allow Beatrice and Eugenie as working royals? So yes, another good question. When it comes to the summit, not only do they need to talk about where Catherine and William where their star power lies, but they also need to talk about foreign tours because we are really behind on that. I know some people are like, well, he just became king and everything. Yeah, I know, but it's not like he has to commission a boat or take 6 planes to get to Australia. There's one plane ride on a Qantas airline and you can get first class and you can have a dandy old time. But so they need to get up on their foreign royal tours because the longer you leave them, the harder it'll be to get them back. That's definitely an issue. And then I think also as well, what they should be discussing is what to do about Harry. I mentioned this in a video. I still hold it. What are they going to do with Harry? Because right now they don't have a plan for him. It feels like they just feel like they're constantly reacting to him and Meghan. And I just really think they need to have a better plan in place what to do about them and their titles. I do think Charles wanted Harry's kids to not have royal titles, the his or her royal highness. And then Harry and Meghan just kind of jam that down everybody's throats. And I think everybody's kind of like, well, let's see. So it'll be interesting to see. I think he does understand the matter of popularity, but I think he is a bit old school too. And I think he is willing to obviously let the Waleses shine because really at the end of the day, Charles is a placeholder. He came to the throne in his mid-70s. At most, he will have 20 years. At most. He may have 5, he may have 10. It all depends on how healthy he is. I think if Camilla goes first, I think won't be able to hang on too much longer. That all depends, but you do see that older couples, once one spouse dies, the other one tends to die rather quickly. And so, we saw this a bit with the Queen and Prince Philip. I think if Prince Philip had lasted longer, perhaps the Queen would have lasted longer. I don't know. There's a lot of questions and talk about that she had bone cancer or something. We can't say any of that for sure. But if she was just, in the process of aging, I think having Philip around would have helped. And so she may have made it to 100. We don't know. Obviously, in some instances, like the Queen Mother, she lived to be 101 and her husband had died 50 plus years before that. But I think in a lot of ways, the stronger and closer connected the couples are, the more likely someone is, especially once they're older in their 70s and 80s and 90s, more likely to follow their spouse soon after their death. So it sort of depends. Camilla is slightly older than Charles, so we shall see. I don't think Beatrice and Eugenie will have a future as working royals, unfortunately. I wish they would. I think they would be great. But I think Charles, too, is nervous about Andrew, and I get it. But we'll see. So we have Royally Fruit. Hello, Brittany. What are your predictions for the Heart of Invictus, the Invictus Games, and Meghan's participation? Do you think people will support her, or do you think this will be final nail in the coffin? So when it comes to the Heart of Invictus, I think it'll be good. The question is how involved and how much are Harry and Meghan a face of it? Obviously, we have Harry in the trailer, no Meghan, but she features prominently a lot too because they have a film camera there filming them as they hug somebody. It's like, would you really hug that person if you weren't being filmed for camera right now? I don't know. So it remains to be seen, but I imagine Meghan will be in there a bit. If she's not, that's a huge indicator that things are going south, I think. That's a huge indicator. The Invictus Games, I think Meghan will try to shoehorn in as much as she can. She needs a good publicity. That's why she's going. That's the sole reason she's going, is that it's a good event. It reflects positively on them, and that's what she wants. She doesn't want to deal with her own failures. And I think people will be nice to her. But again, even this last year, because we've had the Queen's death, and like people like her less and less, and they definitely like Harry less. So I think they won't have quite a rapturous welcoming as they used to have. And I think people are just kind of like, okay, are they really there to help, or are they there, in Meghan's instance especially, to put on her fashion show? So Barbara asked, is Betty's birth certificate in the U.S. a problem for the royal family that it differs from British-born Archie? So this is, I'm going to guess, regarding Lilibet. No. Doesn't matter where she was born. She still has whatever, it's connected to the monarchy. So that she has an American birth certificate isn't an issue. And honestly, as well, Harry and Meghan could have easily gone after her birth to the British consulate in Los Angeles, registered her birth in the United Kingdom. So I'm sure she actually has 2 birth certificates. So Eileen said, I had read that a singer was going to be at the Invictus Games instead of Meghan. And why does she feel she has to be there? She's not interested, nor can she relate to any of the sacrifices royals have made. Again, she just wants to be there and show off her fashion. It's a good event for her. Their brand is tanking. They need something to do. They have nothing else to do. Hollywood's on strike. I mean, maybe if they were working on a project, maybe just maybe Megan would be like, "Ah, I'll sit this one out." But no, no. Oh, Mimi, me Stark Gradian said, "Love your channel, your ray of sunshine on my phone." Why, thank you. Mim Stark Gray N. Okay. Mim Stark Gradient. Okay. Because I know I have a couple more questions from you. So, same person, do you think there's any shape or form for Harry to return to the royal family? If not, what would stop him, his pride, to ask RF to invite him back? I honestly pray for everything to turn out fine because of the kids, but man, I can't imagine William ever being able to forgive him. Do you? Charles, maybe, but William. I don't know if William can forgive him, but I will say that I do think that there is a way back for Harry, but it would require a lot of groveling. I think if he acknowledges that he was swindled by his wife, I think people would recognize that and acknowledge it. So I think that would be his way to go. But then he would also have to admit that he was swindled, that he was tricked, that he married a woman who didn't really care for him and just wanted the money attached to him. I think that'd be a hard pill to swallow. And so I think there is a way back for him, though. When it comes to the British people, I'm not sure, but I think will Charles welcome him back? Yes. William, if William's in charge, if William's on the throne, I don't know. I don't know. But again, I think if Harry came back groveling, then maybe. Mim says, I saw somewhere that Diana said that William was her soulmate in a healthy way that mothers and children can be too, not in the weird Elizabeth Arden kind of way. I would say not totally. I don't think, especially because Diana didn't really have a strong match with another man. Oftentimes, she kind of jumped from guy to guy. I don't think that was actually really all that healthy of her to say to him. In some ways, it's not like it's because sometimes women single moms can rely too much on their sons. And I think that was the instance with Harry and Meghan. Or Harry and William and Diana there. Goodness. I was reading Harry and Meghan in the next part. You said, do you think Meghan fed Harry all the anger he already kept somewhere outside him, or do you think she had brought out the side of him he didn't know he had? He used to be so close to William. Kate, his wife, nope, not a. Also, I don't think Diana would have had a single thing about Meghan being aristocratic herself and wanting both kids to help one another and be each other's best friends. What do you think about that? I think Diana and Meghan would have hated each other. I don't think Harry's like, oh, Diana would have loved Meghan. No, Diana would have hated Meghan. I think honestly because they have the worst qualities in common, and you don't have the benefit of Diana's empathy. Meghan just has, like, sometimes I see him, I'm like, oh yeah, I can see she kind of has the absolute worst qualities that sometimes Diana exhibited. And so I think Meghan and Diana would have hated each other. And I think Diana would have been shocked and appalled by how separated Harry is from the rest of his family. Like, he keeps going, well, my mother didn't. No, his mom did not. And I think that Meghan brought out the worst in Harry, and Harry just reacted. And I think what was simmering was already there, but I think somewhat his frustration that could be pushed in a positive way by Meghan got pushed in a very negative way. So, all right. So, one more question from you. I always wonder how Kate managed to stay so calm even when Harry became a completely different person. I tried to burn her and William, and I think with those rumors saying she called him to support him. How do you think she copes with all those Megxit stuff? Never complained, never explained motto, and still doing her job, taking care of her babies, and having a great marriage. Well, she had done it for years as a girlfriend, so I think as a wife and in this situation, that wasn't that hard. But I also think that there is a lot of things we don't see behind the scenes. And so I think Catherine and William protect themselves quite a bit by not interacting with Harry and Meghan a whole heck of a lot. And I think they do actually benefit from having all those staff members that can kind of act as a barrier to Harry and Meghan, even when they weren't getting along and everything. So, yeah. So a simple, sweet soul asks, I have a personal question. How do you find time to read? What do you do to relax? I try to go to the gym. I've lost a little bit of weight. Yay, me. Right before going on my trip. I do tend to lose sometimes a little bit of weight on these trips because you end up walking so much, which is awesome. But gym is a way I relax. I like to watch TV, be totally honest. When I having time to read, I actually usually read in the bathtub. That's my best place. That's kind of a place where I can like relax at the end of the day. It's just soaking some hot water with myself. That is a great time. I just finished like The Lost City of the Monkey God, or I think is something. So it was a book I read kind of in the preparation for an idea I had. So I wanted to go ahead and read that, and that was a lot of fun. Very interesting. Very interesting. So it's kind of about a lost city in Honduras. So in like this very, very thick, almost unreachable jungle with all these sorts of bugs and snakes and all this stuff. So it was rather interesting about kind of the how hardcore archaeology can be at times. And like that's why I'm not an archaeologist. I did it briefly, a little bit of an archaeological thing. Then I found out I don't really like dirt, which I kind of already knew, but to be honest, it re-emphasized the fact that I don't like dirt, and archaeology is all about being in the dirt. So I'm not an archaeologist. Okay, so Jamie Howard, you had a question. What do you think the real story is about Meghan being forced to leave an event before she and Harry were married? On Celt News Channel, she said, "Oh, Sophie and Edward had to escort her to the plane that would take her back to Canada. I guess no one believes she would get in." I don't buy that personally at all. There was that one event where Harry and Meghan did leave early. That was the garden party for Prince Charles for his birthday. And I think all of that was regarding just that they were going to leave already. It was right after their wedding and stuff. And I don't think there was any more to it than that. They were always scheduled to leave early. I don't think it was anything else. But yeah, I don't think it was a little bit awkward. I don't know if they officially announced that to people, and it would have made more sense if they did. But anyways, I'm sorry, I just don't personally buy that story at all. Per Majesty, the Queen said you've amassed quite a following, and I was wondering if you've ever been recognized in public. How would you feel about it if followers, fans approached you in public? I would be fine. It would. I have had it happen a couple of times. Ironically, it happened when I was trying to get some of the coronation publications the morning after, and I was sans makeup going down because place was easy access to my hotel, and I was like, I met 3 people also buying the newspapers, and it was kind of funny because it's like I felt so bad, so we wanted a selfie, and I did it, of course, because it's so sweet. She was so sweet. She was from Kuwait, and I was like, oh my goodness, I was like, if I could look better, I wish I looked better right now. That was more my thing, but it was a lot of fun. I also met somebody else in the Heathrow Airport, and then when I was on the trip with the group, I had actually somebody, we got on the metro, and I can't remember, she just walked in and just sat near us, but she just kind of had a little smile on her face as she listened to some of us chat, and she's like, I recognize your voice. Are you on YouTube? And I was like, yes, I am. So she was very sweet. So that was really exciting because that was the most random, because otherwise it was otherwise it was like, something where we were all looking for royal stuff. This was like totally, completely random, sitting down on the metro type thing. And then I did have somebody reach out on Facebook to be my friend, and as it turned out, she watches my channel, and we used to work peripherally together. So we had a lot of friends in common. So I just thought, I was like, oh my gosh, that's so funny. So it was just like, wow, small world. Yeah, I keep wondering if I'll get like one of my like older friends who I haven't told about it, who go, oh, I saw you on this. Is this you? Because it would be really weird if it was like from somebody from high school or elementary school or something. That would be really odd. That would be a real blast from the past. Per Majesty also asked if it's anywhere near as entertaining and informative as your other videos. It'll be great. Keep up the good work. Can't wait to hear more about it. I think this was for my members. I shared a picture of some of the notes I took from a recent class I've been taking. So I just started my new class this week. I had a whole notebook filled, well, not a whole notebook, like, I don't know, 10 pages maybe, just filled with some notes as I was researching. So I had to come up with a question, and sometimes I like to write things down as I'm processing ideas, because that does tend to help. And if you've never done that, I mean, everybody's different, but I like looking through. I've done that for like jobs and stuff, and it's just so fun to flip through old notebooks and like seeing it, all the different ideas and notes and everything that I took. I need to be better about it. Sometimes I try to do that when I read, but it's hard because I want to do that all the time, and you can't really read functionally and stop all the time and take notes. I tried that before. It doesn't work. So I don't do that. I do also have, which I'm looking for, and I don't think I see it here. I do also have a Kindle, the Kindle Scribe. And so that's kind of fun, especially for, you can't write in books, unfortunately, but for example, for research articles, which I'll do for my upcoming research paper, I can write in the margins and stuff and highlight it. And it's great. It's awesome. I love being able to write in a book because then I can like, oh, I had this idea, this idea. So if you get a book from me and I was researching through it, you may see a lot of underlining notes, point little arrows. Yeah. So Christy Fawcett asked, do you know if the Queen was required to give the title of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex to Harry and Meghan when they married? I asked because it seems like it would have been wise not to bestow titles because Meghan was already showing signs that she couldn't be trusted and didn't really plan on staying in the UK, i.e. she never severed ties with their business contracts in the US. It seems to me that if the royal family had withheld the title, she would have shown her true colors and that she wasn't really marrying Harry for love. Holding the titles could have saved the royal family and the British people a lot of headache, especially since such a process is involved to remove the titles. So yes, they could. The Queen could have decided not to give Harry a title, but I will give the royal family the props here. They wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt. They wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt. And I think that's admirable to do. Obviously, they did it in error, you could say, but I will admire them for saying, you know what, we're going to give her a shot. Yes, she's been somewhat problematic, but maybe once the wedding calms down, maybe, just maybe it'll get better. And I really admire the royal family for doing that. It doesn't, not everybody can. And I think that's a good thing. And I admire them for doing that. And I admire the Queen for going, I'm not going to be petty here. She's maybe nervous. She just joined, all these things. So I'll give her the benefit of the doubt. And so, yeah, it's unfortunate, but I will give the royal family props for being classy in this situation and not going, well, and, you know, they were trying to placate Harry too, and they wanted her to work, and she promised them she would work. So I think almost it plays better that they did, because then it does truly show her colors, is that they gave her everything, and she still wasn't satisfied, and she was still awful to them. So that says a lot about her. Kathy Riker asks, hi, Brittany. My question is, if at some point in the future the Sussex title were removed, could that title be given to another member of the royal family who might honor it? Yes. All royal titles are technically able to be given to somebody else. We'll also see this with the Duke of York. Most likely, we'll have the future Duke of York will be Prince Louis of Wales. And I'm looking forward to him getting that title. I think it'll be nice to get that title, which has such a prestigious and long history, going back to like the War of the Roses and everything. I think it'll be wonderful and fantastic to see the title, the Duke of York, be honored and respected again. And I think, it could be that William decides not to do it just because of all the contention with Andrew, but I really hope he does, so that it can be rehabbed into somebody who reflects better on the monarchy. TKKSH, who is a channel member, by the way. Hello. Can you talk about the mess it was William and the final Women's World Cup? After that, people are calling him lazy. Is it true that the Australian PM had to invite the royals? I know that William cannot go before the king. I answered this a little bit earlier that no, that doesn't really matter in terms of this particular event. Since it's not a state occasion, William could have gone without trouble. I will say, though, when it comes to the charges that William's being lazy, that has been a consistent complaint of Catherine and William that I've seen actually since 2011, basically, that they are work shy. And so, unfortunately, what again is the problem with the PR, which was not clear here, is that it once again feeds into that narrative that William is work shy and that he doesn't want to do anything he doesn't want to do. And unfortunately, being a royal means, and like any job, you have to do things you don't want to do. So that is, I think, unfortunately, something that played into this whole thing that could have been totally avoided, again, with some sort of better explanation, some sort of PR response, some sort of way to lead the media narrative that didn't reflect quite so badly on William, I think. Because again, the work shy narrative, that's been around for at least a decade. So Katya says, hi, Brittany, you can rest assured that I'm definitely enjoying these Q&A questions. It's fun to pick the mind of someone so knowledgeable. Why, thank you. Someone knowledgeable, not so knowledgeable. I added the so. That would be. This week, I would like to know which one of the European royal families do you think has modernized the most, and why do you think that is? Prince William is slowly being thrust upon as leading figure for the royal family, and I'm trying to guess what type of reform he will be inclined to introduce to the institution by comparing his scenario with one similar that had probably already happened before. I'm looking forward to your feedback, and have a wonderful weekend. Why, thank you, Katya. So I would say most modern, I would say, are probably the Scandinavian countries, specifically more Norway and Sweden, and maybe Denmark a little bit far behind. It depends too on like social issues. You know, the Netherlands is pretty liberal in that way. I would say most conservatives would probably be Spain, and Belgium would be, I would think, more on the conservative end. But when it comes to like relaxed approach and everything, I feel like the Scandinavians have that locked down. And we haven't had a transition of power in the Scandinavian countries in 20 plus years. So it'll be interesting to see, or maybe 30, how that reflects in the future. Obviously, King Carl Gustaf is going to celebrate his 50th Jubilee here soon. We have Queen Marguerite, who also has celebrated her 50th Jubilee. So I feel like when it comes to royals, those who are modernizing the best, I would say the Scandinavians, and I would say the Netherlands. When it comes to social issues, I would think the Netherlands has, definitely has a leg up there. So do the Scandinavian countries. And so they are trying to modernize this process, but it is hard because you do have to reflect the past. You do have to reflect the future. But I will say, I did a video introducing the Norwegian royals, and it was so cute. They had the 80th birthday celebrations for King Harold. And they had this skit where the Crown Prince Haakon met Mara, and the Crown Prince's sister, Princess Martha Louise, did a little skit mimicking their parents and Princess Astrid, who's been there a long, long time. And so that was something that you don't see any of the other royal families do. It's so like, I feel like modern and like social media worthy and everything. And I'm like, yes, yes. I think I would say, especially websites, the Scandinavian royals have some of the best websites. They have pictures you can use. They have announcements and stuff. I'm on the press list for Sweden. And so I would say they have everybody beat pretty much, because that is super helpful if you're doing what I'm doing, to have I took all the pictures for my video on the Norwegian royals from the Norwegian website. They had the best pictures. They had pictures from the past, future, or not future, present, and everything. So I'm like, oh gosh, wish the Brits could do that. The British royal website is so poorly run. It's so unbelievably poorly run because it's so behind. It's so behind all the time. It's ridiculous. Like Liz Swinney asks, why is Harry still involved in charities in the UK? Who would donate to anything he and Meghan are involved in? They are toxic. Well, I mean, people get support where they can. Harry's been well involved in the Well Child Awards for a long time, so I understand why it's hard to get rid of them, but yeah. Kat says, regarding Meghan's recent outing wearing the stress patch, did you notice? And what are your thoughts about how the wrist of that coat sleeve was turned up while the wrist of the other coat sleeve was hanging normal? It looks to me like she wanted to display the patch. Love your videos. Thanks for your all hard work. Yeah, it's more likely she wanted to show off the patch. I mean, you could say that she had put the patch on, so she rolled down a little bit of her coat to just put the patch on. She was likely at a doctor's, beauty, or dentist office in some way. So she may have had a procedure where she was uncomfortable, which I somewhat understand. But also, I think those things are just a joke. I just look at that and go, if you're buying that, that is just money down the drain. But that's Meghan. Meghan is into all those sorts of things. So I could definitely see her trying to merch it and testing the waters, maybe, because she did make it super obvious that's what she was wearing. You could say she wasn't aware the paparazzi was there, but I'm still there. I don't think there's no paparazzi catches her without her knowing in Montecito, at least, because what else would they do? So Chaco Donatella asks, for clarification regarding the HRH titles, Prince Harry and his wife still retain their HRH titles, but are to no longer use them per the 2020 departure. So removing HRH from the website was only considered housekeeping on the website and not a true stripping of HRH. And question mark, yes, that is true. I did a video where I said stripping HRH just because it is easier to say. But yes, they have been stripped. They cannot use their HRH publicly, and it appears like for their children that is the same. Yeah, so that's where that is. But yeah, the royal website is horribly out of date in so many instances. Joni asks, who takes care of Miss Pippa, who's sweetly sleeping in my lap? Who takes care of Pippa while you're traveling? So this time will be my sister, my mom, and then she might have to spend some time in boarding too. I tried to get somebody else to house/pet sit for me, and I can't get somebody. Because it's a long time. It's a long time. I'll be gone almost 4 weeks, so it'll be a long trip. So not everybody can watch her all the time. So Sarah says, because you know a lot about history in the royal family, I'm curious, what are your long-term predictions about William and Harry and their relationship? How will Harry be portrayed in history books? Harry could be a big factor in terms of the disintegration of the monarchy in the future. So if that's what Harry is going for, bravo, bud. Because that makes you as irrelevant as the rest of your family if you did not know that. But yeah, I don't think his history will be particularly kind to Harry. William and Harry, I think their relationship can mend, but it'll take a long time and a lot of groveling. Savannah says, do you think Harry and Meghan are going to pull a publicity stunt on the anniversary of the Queen's death? I would not necessarily be surprised. The somewhat advantage is that Meghan is not with Harry on the anniversary, so that may help. But we'll see. Rave Girl asks, how do you think things are going with Meghan and WME? Doesn't seem like flooding the internet with puff peevuses is gaining any traction. I think that's having the opposite effect they intended. Yeah, and it's basically the same thing they did with Sunshine Stacks. I don't understand how having WME has been helpful to Meghan at all. And I think they're finding out too, her brand is toxic. So any brand deals they make are just not working. And yeah, I think they're finding it much harder, I'm sure, than they initially intended, because people are just not that interested in the talentlessness of Meghan Markle. Cards by Bell says, hi, Brittany. What can you say about H going to the UK just to attend the Well Child Awards on the eve of the Queen's remembrance? Is he trying to steal attention from this important family occasion, or is it just a convenient reason for him to say, I was in the UK, but my family did not even bother to invite me to honor the memory of my grandmother? I would say he's a consistently attended this event, so I don't think he was like particularly like, yeah, let's go so I can steal attention from my grandmother on the eve of her passing. But I think it makes sense for him to be there, and he still has connections to the UK, and so I just think it does make sense. He was supposed to be at the Well Child Awards on the evening of his grandmother's death, but obviously his grandmother's death changed that. But yeah, he's been consistently at this thing. I'm just glad Meghan's not going. Parker says, why is no one talking about the horrible documentary about Andrew that premiered in the States this week? Nothing. Crickets. It's just swept under the rug. No one talks about the creepy uncle. That's so 1980. Secrets of Prince Andrew. Yeah, that's a good sign. If nobody's talking about that, that means it's not getting any traction and nobody cares. So I think Andrew is a skeeve and a perv, but I think some of what's happened to him has been a little bit unfair in the terms that he was completely cut out of the royal family, cut out from everything. And he has not been convicted of anything. That's my thing. Yes, I think he should be stripped of his title, perhaps in his working role, but the people, want to throw him in jail. It's like, well, there has been no trial, there has been no conviction. You can't say that all of what Virginia said was true. We just don't have any evidence that everything she said was true. So we have also Marin says, do you believe that the Invictus is actually some sort of shell company for Harry and Meghan that is basically exploiting the veterans and their families for an abhorrent amount of perks? The reason I asked is because I heard Meghan was afforded more than $69,000 designer duds for her last IG appearance. If I'm not mistaken, that comes out to $23,000 a day. Yeah, I mean, she spent an obscene amount of money last year and did not wear a single piece of brand gear. But I don't think it's a shell company, because I think there's a lot of other people with control over the Invictus Games. And so I don't think that's quite the case. But I do also think as well, it's an opportunity for Harry and Meghan to exploit veterans, which I think is quite sad. Tal Rule says, do you think there's a possibility King Charles will do the dirty job of removing the Harkles titles in order to spare, wink, wink, William the future headache? Something he pull a stunt like the European Queen. So that's Queen Margaretha Denmark. I forgot her name and country, who removed the titles from her kids. Plus, I love your videos. It's entirely possible that Charles will do that at some point. He may be just letting his reign rest. You got to remember, Queen Marguerite, those kids had those titles. Some of those kids had those titles for 20 plus years. So that she stripped them then shows that there's no time limit on stripping the titles. And Denmark is different. All the royal families are different in how they treat royal titles. But again, I think just amending the letters of patent to be something as simple as you must actually be living in the United Kingdom or educated in the United Kingdom to hold those titles, I think is an easy peasy way to go. And doesn't look like, and it makes sense. It's like you need to actually be here in this country to have a title. It just makes sense. Laura says, I appreciate that the games were set up to give hapless Harry something positive to do, but who actually owns or controls Invictus? Can they extricate themselves from Archibald and Harry and Meghan? Can they get a new presenter? Otherwise, they are sinking fast. I don't know entirely the makeup of the organization, but I do think they need to find a different patron. 100% find a different patron. It is challenging in a lot of ways what they're doing and with Harry and Meghan, and I think they'll lose out on a lot if they don't change things up. So we have Tina. Hi, a fun question. If you could spend some time in any royal closet, whose would you choose and why? Oh goodness. Well, I do two different ones. I do marry Crown Princess Mary of Denmark for most of day-to-day wardrobe. She has, I think, a great collection, great hats, so many great outfits. But when it comes to gala dresses, I think I'd have to go with Queen Maxima because Maxima has one of my favorite royal gowns ever. It's a sleeveless number. It's pink. It's unbelievably stunning. And she had this crazy like cape like thing that went over the dress that looked unbelievable. It was so cool, so old school. So when it comes to gala dresses, it's definitely 100% Queen Maxima. She has some of my favorites. But when it comes to more everyday royal attire, I think Crown Princess Mary, like day-to-day engagements more, Crown Princess Mary definitely has a fantastic wardrobe. Not that Catherine doesn't, but I just like those royal ladies a lot. Melissa Johnson says, something I've been wondering is, do the Waleses and their children travel separately on planes, trains, boats, cars? I just think how devastating it would be if something happened to them. Sperry is not that far off from being next in line. Do you know anything about this? I know we have a lot of safety travel these days. Just want to ask. Love your channel. Yeah, I think since Catherine and William have become the Prince and Princess of Wales, I know for a while they were all traveling together. They need to amend that now. Once Charles ascended the throne, then the separation needs to happen. I don't know if it's quite there yet. I know that is scary and probably annoying in a lot of ways to travel separately, but I do think it needs to be done because there's no way better to guarantee your country will become a republic than to lose the Waleses and be stuck with the Markles. I think that's a way UK would become a republic in an instant. Lazy's Homestead asked, I was watching another YouTuber, so I can't remember which one, but he said that one of Meghan's fiance said he received the rings back in the mail when they split. Turns out they were fakes. The possible she is having a fake ring, Meg, she can just do the same thing with the Diana's ring when she leaves Harry. No, I think she sent back the real rings, probably. That's just, conspiracy stuff. But I would say, though, the idea that people put forward that, oh, it's Diana's diamond, so it'll be worth more, doesn't totally hold water, I think, because the connection is not that just that they're Diana's, but they're in a specific Diana piece of jewelry. Any gosh darn old diamond, you could say it's a Diana diamond. Who would know it was a real Diana diamond? So that's why Catherine's, for example, her engagement ring is worth so much more as that engagement ring than it would be if it was just a random if they had popped the sapphire out and had the sapphire separately. It's just totally different. And so I just don't think, I think she's playing games with Harry and the public by taking it off. I don't think, though, she's having a fake ring to take out the diamonds because, again, who cares? I don't think they would be worth any more if you just said that they were, Diana's diamond rings or Diana's diamonds without saying, well, what part of Diana's jewelry were they from? That's what matters. Lori Hawkins says, how can we find out how much Harry and Meghan have taken from Invictus? Did the Invictus Games pay for her $69,000 wardrobe last year? Or shouldn't the charities spending be public. The kind of hard thing is, I think with Invictus, I haven't done a super deep dive on this, is that because it has different charities, I think in different countries, every country it's attached with has a different charity. I think it's harder to manage some of or track some of the finances. And it could just be added into compensation or marketing or something like that. And we just don't know. They may not have to get down, at least publicly, into the nitty gritty on what exactly that was spent on. Patty Demul says Megan's not wearing a ring. I think she's ready to move on. What do you think she will do with her ring? There were 2 diamonds from Diana's collection: earrings, center stone, 3-carat Botswana diamond ring, pendant. My thoughts selling them as Diana collection. She also has her engagement ring made from Welsh gold. I think the Welsh gold would have to be returned to the UK. That might be a stipulation. But I'm sure when it comes to Diana's jewelry, that was very much managed in a prenuptial agreement. I'm sure William insisted on that. It's like, if you guys divorce, much like Catherine, I'm sure had to sign some sort of prenup. My mother's jewelry goes back to us. It does not go to her. It belongs to us. I really hope I would imagine, I can't foresee William doing anything else. Although I will say Meghan got the crappy end of Diana's jewelry. She got the really crappy stuff, except for that aquamarine ring that I do like, but everything else was super crappy. So she didn't get anything all that great. Sean Bumstead said, in the future, Prince George will no doubt go to military school, one or more of the different branches. What would Catherine Williams say if Charlotte wanted to join the military? I think they'd be fine with it. I don't think, again, Charlotte would be ever in combat. I mean, generally, women aren't in combat. They may be in a situation where combat starts to occur, but they're not in combat, which I think is great. I'm not a fan of women being in combat. I just don't think it works. The dynamic between the sexes, the vulnerability of women compared to men in combat is just wholly different, just utterly and completely different. So I don't think women should be in combat situations at all. But if Charlotte wanted to be an auxiliary member of the military, I think that would be fine. And I think Catherine and William would be, I think William as a father would definitely be worried, but he would also be super excited and thrilled that she would want to serve her country in that way. Sophie asked, during the now infamous bowing scene in Meghan, I almost said bowling, I'm not sure why. Infamous bowing scene in Harry and Meghan. She talks about Americans understanding medieval times, dinners, tournaments. For non-Americans, could you explain what on earth she's talking about? Okay, so there's something called like Renaissance fairs, and they also have it at the I think it's called the Excalibur Hotel in Las Vegas. And so these events, they're just kind of mock medieval times. So they have like jousting tournaments. People say, people use Renaissance style language, and it's just very much mimicking that time period. And so Megan's definitely talking about something that you would see at one of those places like Excalibur or something like that. They do have obviously tournaments in like Renaissance fairs as well. There's actually a Renaissance fair that's local, and I thought, ooh, that would be kind of fun this fall, maybe to go and get some like. I wanted to more get audio of like jousting matches and stuff. That's more what I'm interested in for a project I'm in the process of developing. So that is what they're talking about. So yeah, it's just like for the tournament, like it would be like a dinner and a show, basically, if that makes sense, with a medieval theme and obviously theatrical bowing, which Meghan was like, oh, let me mimic that because people love that. It'll make me likable. Every time she tries to be likable, she becomes less likable. It's really kind of funny. So we have BMEJ Co. Ask, hi Brittany, in the Oprah interview, Meghan said something to the effect of that if it was Archie's birthright to be a prince and he wasn't getting the title, it was because of his skin color. Obviously, we all know that was not true. But my question is, isn't it also Archie's birthright to have his family in his life, to learn to know his heritage and his history, to learn the culture and traditions, to be included in the special place his family holds in the world? Why would any good mother want to keep their child from so much? Yeah, I've mentioned that in videos too. I think what Meghan has done to her children is abhorrent. She's kept them from the coronation, the Jubilee. If I was Archie and Lily and I grew up and I realized all the things my parents kept from me for no good reason, I would be horrified, especially as a historian. I would just be like, What? Why? What? I wanted to do that because I imagine Archie when he's 40 years old, which would have much rather at his fourth birthday been at the coronation than in a bouncy house on the property he lives in every single stinking day of his life. I think again, what I think they've done is abhorrent. I think they've kept so much from their kids, and I think their kids may end up resenting them because I don't think there's a good explanation for it. So Long Live Liberty asks, will Catherine have to bow to William when he inherits the crown? I think she probably will at the coronation ceremony, maybe. Honestly, I still haven't been able to watch the full coronation ceremony yet because I was at the coronation, but I was in the rain outdoors where there was no cell reception. So I knew nothing that was going on. Like we could hear bits of it, but like it just didn't mean anything to us. They should have had screens. They should have had screens. So if Camilla bowed to Charles, then Catherine would bow to William. And I think it would just be kind of cool to see in that moment. But technically, they are, I mean, they're not totally equals, but they're kind of sort of equals. But if there was one instance where Catherine would bow to William, would be at the coronation and no other time. Indie Girl asks, is Prince Harry going to wear his military uniform? I didn't think it was permissible to wear one unless you're currently serving or have died. No, he wouldn't be allowed to wear it anymore. He wasn't allowed to wear it at his grandmother's funeral. He wouldn't be allowed to wear it in the Invictus Games. And he didn't last year. And I don't think he has ever at the Invictus Games. Guy Verset asks, what is the reason for Meghan is allowed to do the closing speech at Invictus Games this year if filmed for another Netflix show or will be accented just to show a few moments? I think it's because she likes the attention. There's no other good reason. There's really not any other good reason. But she likes the attention. So Aisha asks, I want to know how it can be possible that Harold would be apparently attending a summit with the king. The royal family doesn't trust him at all. How can they trust an unstable man like Harold? So yeah, that was reported by someone. It was debunked by the Daily Beast, which is, I wouldn't say, not a totally reliable source for royal news. But I would say too, none of the royal reporters ever reported really that Harry would be there, because there's no reason for him to be there. He has no future in the monarchy. Why would he be at a summit about the monarchy? Uh, T Myers asks, is it true that Meghan and Harry are going to talk about resilience and courage for the Invictus Games? Nothing that they have. Who do you think should take over the Invictus Games? That way the veterans are properly honored. I've heard Gary Sinise would be a great representative. I think any of the other royals, I think you could find great representatives. Somebody mentioned Zara Phillips and Mike Tyndall. I think that would be fantastic, because they're fun and engaging, and I feel like they would hit it off with that set really well. And like I said in my video I did yesterday, I think I said it. No, I didn't. I think maybe I said it on Instagram or on Twitter or something. But I think Zara and Mike too would be able to be there and not have to cling desperately to each other all the time. Part of the problem too is when Meghan's there, Harry doesn't seem to care about anybody but Meghan. And it's like, this is your event, bud. You need to care about more than your stinking wife, who you see all the time, who's desperately clinging to you as if you're not, if you stop holding hands for 2 minutes, like the world will implode. Like, stop doing that. They talk about resilience and courage. Again, they are both incredibly tone deaf people, so I would not be surprised in the slightest. Annette says, have you ever thought about if Harry and Meghan came across your channel and saw some of your videos? You must irritate Meghan's narcissism. Love your videos. Thank you. If they're not aware of my channel, they should be. Just from a PR management perspective, you should be aware of what people are saying about you in big voices. Not that I'm a huge voice, not saying anything like that, but this channel is pretty big, and so they should be paying attention. Sorry, I'm trying to find we may have to end if my computer gets too low on battery here. So we have will Kat and William be actually having a service in memory of the Queen, or is this a normal visit? I think this will be part of a service for the Queen. I think that's the only reason they're going on the anniversary of her death. I don't think they would go for any other reason. Maria said, I had his perspective on Ringgate. I think Meghan is not wearing her ring to signal to Harry that she is not happy in their marriage, knowing that the media will pick up on it and talk about it. That way, Harry feels obligated to keep giving in on her wants and needs. It is just a passive-aggressive way to control Harry once again without utterly uttering the direct words. Yes, I would agree with that. I think Meghan's playing some sort of game. I don't think we're aware of what that game is yet, but she is playing a game because he said in their engagement interview, and I'm bummed I wasn't able to totally watch it before noticing that, but he goes, well, you're not supposed to ever take that off. She's more than willing to. She's more than willing to. And I'm sorry, but it does not take 8 months to fix your ring. So something else is going on. User BM asks, was Harry really the code name for Archie? If so, how desperate were these two to get one up on the family with both their names getting so weird? The more you know. I don't know that for sure. I've heard rumors of that, but I honestly think as well, Archie is such a lame name for a royal. Like the fun thing about royalty is that there's such great names throughout history that you can pull from. And you go with Archie. And I'm sorry, I read Archie comics as a kid. I love Archie comics. The best you can come up with is Archie for a name. They're really bad at naming their kids. Like they're not like it's not even interesting names. They're boring, predictable names that are just bad. Like and then Archie Harrison because son of Harry. Harry is legal name is Henry. His legal name is Henry. So why are you naming him son of Harry when he's son of Henry? I understand he's called Harry, been called Harry all his life. I actually thought for Harry, it would have actually been a good idea for him. And I think he can do this now too in the future for a rebrand is to say, I want to be known as Prince Henry now. For a rebrand, I think that's pretty smart. So Victoria asks, I absolutely love Crown Princess Mary's white dress and leather belt outfit this week. The dress was perfect, and the coordinating leather accessories and were just flawless in my opinion. Yes, I agree. Crown Princess Mary really does have a fantastic sense of style. It's very appropriate, professional for a royal, and she's usually able to add little touches that I think go a long way. I will say again, her coronation outfit with the dark purple plum and the turquoise jewelry, like marvelous. I was not expecting that. I just thought that was absolutely fabulous. And you wouldn't think that color combination would work, but it really worked. Really, really worked. Victoria also asked, do you think the Wales' kids will join their parents at the remembrance service? I would love that if they did. I understand why they maybe would not, because the kids might be still in school, but they may be pulled out to remember their grandmother. So it's entirely possible, given that the event is also in Wales. I think that would be a good idea for them to go. All right. MSR 7151 asks, hi, Brittany. If you were a teacher in Montecito and had Archie in your class, would you call him a Prince Archie? Rumor has it Meghan requires this from people that come in contact with just a rumor, but I wouldn't put it past her. I wouldn't put it past her either. I would have a hard time with it just because as a teacher, I would want all my kids to feel like they were equal. And I feel like it disrupts the power balance in the classroom if I have to say, hello, Prince Archie. And the emphasis might be even that I need to curtsy to Prince Archie. And I would go, no, I don't think I need to do that. So I just kind of disagree with that. So I would have a tough time. I'd have a really tough time knowing what to do. Sue asks, have you read Hilary Mantel's trilogy on Thomas Cromwell? I thought of you when she mentioned Hans Holbein painting Cromwell among things. Yeah, so I have not read that. I'll have to look. Is it a fiction series? Or I think it's a fiction series. I don't tend to read too much fiction or historical fiction. I tend to read actual history because I find it more interesting. I read one fiction book. Well, actually, the last sort of fiction book I picked up because like everybody was talking about, I was like, oh, I got to read this. Was Gone Girl. I hated the ending. I felt like the bad guy won, and I hate that. I was like, if I want to read about the bad guy winning, I'll read a history book because then at least it actually happened, and it's still sad, but like I don't know but it actually happened. It's like I want to read a fiction book to escape, so I always want the good guy to win. That's just my personal opinion. Jordy Lucy asked, hi, Brittany. I'm wondering there's buzz that Meghan will fly straight to Germany and Harry will fly solo, making a stop in the UK. There are rumors of reconciliation. I feel like this is set up yet another attempt to make the RF look bad. I don't buy it, but I do believe Harry will lie to the world that the RF wouldn't even see him. This is fishy to me. What are your thoughts? By the way, love your channel and watching your success. Why, thank you, Shorty Lucy. So I think that obviously, we know Harry will stop in the UK, and we know Meghan will go directly to Germany because she doesn't want to step foot in the UK without them groveling and apologizing to her, which they'll never do. I don't know if there's really will be a reconciliation. There definitely won't be a reconciliation between the royals and Harry, I think, which is what you're mentioning. I'm thinking to Harry and Meghan themselves. I don't think that either, really. I think they're in just a holding pattern right now. But yeah, Harry could definitely say, well, the royal family wouldn't see me, but they're also conveniently busy. And it's like, well, they can't cater to your whims as if you are 5 years old, Prince Harry. They cannot cater to your whims. So Kay Coffee asked, I have a question. Do you know how Princess Diana paid for trips for her projects after the divorce? I do not. And again, I imagine sometimes the charity paid for that. What I have an issue with Harry and Meghan is that they are supposedly financially independent and they are living in a $14 million mansion. I believe Diana was still technically living at Kensington Palace when she died. Harry and Meghan should have all the money in the world to fund all their travels without taking a dime from their charities. If they are taking money for expenses and travel and stuff, I just feel like that's incredibly disingenuous. If that happened with Diana, I would sort of understand it because she didn't really have a job besides still actually sort of being a pseudo royal. But she was living in the palace. She had a good relationship with the most part with the royal family in terms of that she wasn't like totally trying to destroy them on the way out. She wasn't going, oh, I'm going to make hundreds of millions of dollars going over here and having a deal with Netflix. In her time, it would have been maybe having a deal with Fox Studios or Disney or something like that. She's like, she wasn't doing that. She was still doing charitable work. I think still trying to figure out what she wanted to do going forwards. And so I think it's very, very different than what Harry and Meghan are doing. So Aram says, did you see the Earthshot podcast? What was your opinion on Prince William doing a podcast? I don't have any issue with William doing a podcast at all. Again, because he won't be making probably any money from it, and any money generated would go to Earthshot. So I have no issue with it. Again, I think the confusing line here is where is the money going regarding Harry and Meghan and their charitable endeavors? That's the issue I have. Lily of the Valley says, can't wait for you to report on the documentary from New Jersey and touring Europe. So waiting for you to report back on it. I hope Meghan won't be part in it. So cringy to see her inappropriately jockeying for photo ops. When you cover it, it makes me laugh and softens the blow. Why, thank you. Yes, and I will be. I don't think we'll probably do this next week just because it'll be the day before my trip. I'll probably have a lot of last minute things to do. But I will be reviewing the documentary as I can, just so you guys don't have to watch it, and we'll see how much Meghan is in it. So that'll be interesting, but I'm not totally looking forward to it. Will be interesting to see if it's good or if Harry's in it way too much. My cat's name is Karen asks, I still would like clarification on who is controlling the inheritance of Princess Di, and if Harry and William are still getting it when they turn 40. I've had people tell me Princess Anne now has control and they won't be getting it until they turn 45. I was guessing you said. I don't know. I haven't researched into that too much, and because honestly, I don't really care. That might sound weird, but I just really don't. William obviously has the Duchy of Cornwall to control now, and Harry has a lot of money anyways. And yes, he'll get a bump whenever he gets that additional amount. I think it was sparsed out in different chunks. It's not only Princess Diana's money. You got to remember too, a good chunk of it was also the Queen Mother's money. Queen Mother left Harry more than William is reports because Harry won't have the Duchy of Cornwall to land on. So those are the two things. So I actually think who controls the estate in terms of money would make sense if it was the Queen Mother leaving the money that it was Princess Anne who controlled it. I just can't see Diana going, oh yeah, Princess Anne, my former sister-in-law, who I probably don't speak with very much, who we never got along with all that well. Why don't you be the executors of my estates for my sons? So I think the money that's being divvied out later is probably belonging to actually the Queen Mother. Seabear says, good morning. Can you talk about the brooches with ancestors of the royal wear it's at stakes functions? I noticed all the European royal families wear them with a yellow or blue ribbon on near their sashes. So that is their royal family order that they wear with the picture of the monarch when they have the little brooch with, there's a picture of the monarch on it. They have a ribbon, usually different colors represents the different monarchs. So the Queen had yellow, I believe. And I think George had blue. We're not sure what the color for Charles will be yet. And the sashes they wear are their orders. So you have different orders. Some of them are dark blue. So like Royal Order of the Garter. And then all the other European countries also have various royal family orders. So it kind of all depends. But yeah. Meredith asked, at the Invictus Games this year, do you think Meghan will wear more or less than $65,000 worth of clothing like she did last year? I think she will wear more. I think she'll wear about the same. If she wears branded gear, that'll be a good thing for her, but I think she loves the attention and stuff. So we have Tanya, who is a member, has a question here. You mentioned in an earlier video that Meghan took some inappropriate pictures of the palace and areas of the royal residence. Read that she took pictures of Princess Charlotte sleeping in the princess's room. Do you know if there's any truth to that? Also, who ultimately has the authority to remove the Sussexes title, King Charles or Parliament? So it is, in terms of the title, it's Parliament. I think King Charles will want, though, his approval to begin the process. When it comes to the pictures, I've heard that rumors. I don't think I've ever said definitively that yes, that happened. I mean, we know that happened during the documentary, that they definitely took unauthorized pictures inside the castles and palaces. When it comes to some of the residences while they were dating, we've heard reports of that. No proof. If she did take a picture of Charlotte sleeping, that's just creepy. But would I totally say that couldn't happen with Meghan? No, no. Mary asks, "What will he do with himself when she divorces him? He is going to be the laughingstock the whole time, especially in the UK. Yeah, he'll be really aimless without her because he relies on her way too much anyway." So, Sandy Wong asks, "Since Harry's lost his HRH, why is he still doing charity work? He's only done 1 hour in the States, and I'd say he's a fraud." Yeah, he is a fraud, but it's weird because it's like he still wants to do the royal thing. Like, you get just the sense that even though Meghan wanted to leave the royal family, he didn't really. And so he's just still continuing to do that. So this is Elena said, "Just comment that I'm 100% with you, Brittany, and thinking the Tig is just awful name for Harry's wife's stupid, pretentious blog. Makes me think of Tigger from Winnie the Pooh every time." Yes, it does. Yeah, it does. It's a dumb name. It's terrible branding. It's terrible branding. That's why I chose Royal News Network. It's simple. Royal News Network, like cable news network, CNN, Royal News Network. It's catchy, it's easy, people remember it. The Tig, I'm like, what is the Tig? And Tiganello, you have a Tig moment. I was like, what does it mean? That doesn't mean anything. You're just, again, making up words and word salad. So the L Hester asks, "I would like to know if the money for the methane's incredibly expensive snacks, sheets, wardrobe, etc., is coming from them or the charity." I'm not sure. I don't know if we'll ever know because they can bury that cost and saying it's something else. So unfortunately, I do not know. Joan asks, "Why in the hell is Markle going to the Invictus Games? No one wants. The veterans deserve better." Yes, they do. She just wants the attention, the positive publicity. That's all she wants. She doesn't care about the veterans. She doesn't care about the Invictus Games. It's also she can get a mic and stand in front of people and spout her word salad nonsense. Mary asked, "Did we ever get confirmation on Meghan using the Invictus funds to purchase her very expensive wardrobe?" I have answered that. If she did, she would be made to reimburse the veteran. Such a vile thing to do. It is vile, but wouldn't put it past Meghan at all to have that buried within the cost of the administrative or the marketing something. Alaska is my home ask. Harry goes home the 7th of September from Jerry Caldwell Child. What is the distance from the organization really all about? Will this distract from what the organization is all about? Is it a good idea to have him as a front man for any charity? I don't think it's a good idea because it becomes all about him and Meghan, but yeah. It is sad, I think, that people still rely on Harry for these events, but I feel like he does have a passion for them, but it's like he just totally doesn't understand, I don't think, how bad his association with Meghan looks, how bad she's destroyed their reputation, how bad this all looks. I think he's still relatively clueless. Rochelle Fever asks, hypothetical history question. Edward the Eighth abdicated to marry Wallis Simpson. Let's pretend that Parliament allowed Edward to marry Wallis and retain the throne. Given the fact that Edward and Wallis had no children, would the throne have passed to Elizabeth after the death of the King Edward? Anyways, for the abdication, was Elizabeth third in line of the succession? Essentially, would Elizabeth II have been queen no matter what, abdication or not? Yes. Yeah, at that point, she would have been, although if her father, let's say, because he wasn't under the stress of being the monarch, had lived, he would have been king first and then it would have passed her. So actually, for example, the Japanese royal family right now, because they are strictly male only successor. So you had the emperor, you had the emperor's brother who was next in line, and the brother's son who is technically the future of the crown. And he's the only one. Because all the women, unless they marry another royal with the title, have to leave the family. And so Japanese are stuck. We're a very bad system. Ma'am of two girls says, "I do not think Meghan will be hanging on Harry this time. Honestly, think behind the scenes of the Invictus Games will be interesting to watch. I don't think they will talk or spend much time together." Yeah, when I was looking at pictures, I would honestly say that I felt like we don't see that clinginess quite as much anymore. And I think their relationship has cooled in a lot of ways. So I don't know if we'll see that quite as much. But again, I always thought part of the handholding was a performance. So it's hard to say. So we have Sheridan Mason ask, "Great videos, Brittany. Why don't the Invictus Games and other communities say no to Markle appearing and speaking? Do you think Markle and Serena Williams are still BFF? Love your enthusiasm." Why, thank you. I mean, they enjoy the attention that Harry and Meghan bring them. I think it'll be interesting to see this year because their popularity has fallen so much again. Will the Invictus Games recalibrate after this? It's entirely possible. I don't know about Markle and Serena Williams really being best friends. I don't even know if they were really best friends to begin with. I think the friendship, like so many things regarding Meghan, were exaggerated, were inflated, and I think this is the same thing happening here. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see, but I would hope that the Invictus Games might see that this year isn't going so well and they'll be like, oh, maybe we should do something different. So, anyways, guys, that is all the questions we have for this week. I hope you really enjoyed this video. Miss Pippa enjoyed hanging out with you guys today. Here she is. Oh, Miss Pippa. Miss Pippa. She's gonna miss me, I think. I hope, anyways. She's my sweet, precious baby girl. So, guys, thank you so much for watching again. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. I think next week, like I said again, I think we'll take a pause on these for the next 2 weeks. So that's September 3rd, and I believe September 2nd and September 11th, 12th, something. Anyways, or 9th, something. Yeah, 9th. So we will probably be taking a little bit of a break because I will be traveling and I have some school things and all those sorts of things. So I think it'll be just easier to take a 2-week break after this point. So guys, I so appreciate you guys watching these. I find these so fun. And I look forward to see you guys again soon and hopefully being able to do more live streams on Saturday and maybe incorporating these into doing them trading off. We'll see. So guys, again, thanks for watching. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.